In life, we all encounter obstacles, and those obstacles come in all different shapes, sizes, and forms. The question is, how do we handle those obstacles? Do we attack them head on, or do we allow them to make us quit? Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast, where we aim to motivate and inspire listeners to never give up on themselves, their dreams, or their goals. We will interview successful people from all walks of life as they share their no-quit stories when they had the choice to give up or give in, but they didn't. We hope you find our episodes inspiring, motivating, positive, and thought-provoking. We thank you for listening, and we hope to be that jolt of positivity as you go for your greatness. Welcome to episode number 96 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and today's theme of the day is positivity. Our quote of the day comes to us from Joel Osteen. If you cannot be positive, then at least be quiet. It is a complete honor to bring you today's episode. I recently met Rahz Slaughter about a month ago when I spoke at an event in New York City. His positive approach towards life is definitely refreshing. Dealt with a disability, instead of taking a woe is me approach, he has turned that disability into a huge ability. Rahz has dealt with his fair share of challenges throughout his life, but he keeps going and does it with a smile and an awesome helping attitude towards everyone he encounters. He is rocking his professional career, speaking, coaching, and running 3 very successful fitness gyms. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Rahz, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
Thank you, man. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to sharing. Thank you again.
I appreciate it. So the first question we ask everybody is, are you ready to make it happen today?
Absolutely. I was born to make it happen. I mean, my life has always been a little bit challenging, so I've always had to turn those obstacles into opportunities.
I love it. I love it. So the number one objective of our show is to motivate and inspire our listeners to never give up. And I was curious if you had either a story about perseverance or perhaps a challenging time that tested you, but you kept on going and didn't quit.
I think we all have those times in our lives where we're tested, but sometimes we don't notice them when we're actually going through them. One of the times that I can remember is growing up as a young boy. I was born with my right leg shorter than the other. I have no quadricep or hamstring on my right leg. So for those listeners, basically, I can't extend or flex my knee, bend it or flex it. And this was a disability, but I turned that disability into an ability when I realized that if I was going to be able to live a normal life like all the other children, I had to find what was unique about me. And I found that I had upper body strength, so I was able to do pull-ups and push-ups. And I just developed my upper body strength so that it would counterbalance what people saw when I was limping and walking. And I became a really outstanding athlete through just seeing that obstacle and saying, you know what, I just got to work harder. I got to get up earlier. I got to stay later. And I got to push myself a little bit harder than everyone else so that I can excel at the things that I want to accomplish.
You know, I got an opportunity to meet you a couple weeks ago at an event where I was speaking and we connected, and you had the opportunity to jump on stage for a minute or two and share your story. And I just thought it was really interesting, and which is one of the reasons why I connect with you. But I have to ask you, how did you have that mindset, or was it something your parents taught you or something you developed in the sense of turning a disability into an ability?
I think it started with just really, I'm blessed. I mean, I'd love to say, I read all these amazing books and things like that. But it was just my mindset was always, if you tell me I can't, I must. And it started early on with, when I was born, my hip was dislocated. My mother, my father left right away pretty much to a single mom, 19 years old. So I grew up really fast, and I had to have, a little bit thicker skin. The things that I saw as a young adult growing up with no father, mother who was addicted to drugs, I just knew that I had to change that. And it started with the way I think, the way I saw the world. I was going to be positive no matter what the circumstances that I had to go through were. And that's really where I developed my positive mental attitude and how I see life every day. I see it as opportunities, not obstacles.
No, I love that. And that's something that I've actually been talking about a lot in 2018, is turning every single obstacle or every single challenge into your next big opportunity. And it's definitely easier said than done. It's not simple to do, but it takes time and effort. And if you commit to doing it, you're going to be so much better off.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that for me, it was I started to read a lot of books early on. About 12 or 13, I started to get into personal growth. I started to really follow, some of the thought leaders like Anthony Robbins and Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar. And that allowed me to kind of shape and shift my paradigm from where I was like, wow, this is all there is, which was limitations, to all their possibilities. And now I knew that if I wanted to change anything, it could start with the 6 inches between my ears that would allow me to kind of attract anything I wanted, to manifest it, as long as I was willing to work for it.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. And that was one of my other questions is, have you gotten into the personal development world? And I know that you have. And as I mentioned, how we met was an event for people that want to get on the stage more often. So I definitely commend you for doing that. So I wanted to just ask you, if you wouldn't mind, if you could give us 30 or 45 second background of who you are and what exactly you're doing today.
Sure. Thank you for that. Well, today, I've used this kind of platform of my leg and inspiring and motivating people to turn it into my career. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a coach. I'm an entrepreneur, a consultant. And what I do is I help people. If they want to transform their bodies, they want to have more health, energy, look better, I can help them do that with my gyms. And then if they're a personal trainer, a coach, or a service provider who wants to grow a business like I've created, utilizing my lifestyle fitness business system so that they don't have to be trapped with their business, they can actually build their business from wherever they want. I can share with them how to do that as well.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. And later on, I'll ask you, because I know you have something coming up in June of this year. So I'll give you a chance to talk about that later on also.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you, Rahz, how do you personally define success?
So success is different for everyone. I've had to go through several different iterations of what it meant to me as I've grown older. Today, success means being able to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want, for as long as I want. And what I'll add to that a little bit. It's just it's not about money. It's not about financial, material things. For me, I have a family. I have friends. I love to make connections. I love to travel. I love to have the opportunity to go and meet people like yourself at different events and things like that. I just want to have the resources to be able to do that and not feel like I'm held back by anything. So that's success for me. I mean, success is just being able to create happiness and experiences with those that I love.
I'm so glad you shared that, because that's something that's been a common theme throughout a lot of our podcasts, is the fact that success to everybody is different. And you touched on something that I wanted to just mention really quickly is success should change also during your lifetime. For example, when you're 20, success should be different when you're 30 or 40 or 50. And I think that's the interesting part in life, is it should be a constant moving target, not where you're not aiming for something, but you always want to improve and change. And I love your definition of it. It's something that is probably a lot more similar than not, in the sense of a lot of the amazing guests we've had on our show, is success is not a monetary or materialistic thing. Now, don't get me wrong, money is important, and it's nice to have those things that you want, but if you have all the money in the world and all the materialistic things and you're not happy, it's irrelevant in some ways. And the flip side is, if you don't have all the money in the world and maybe you don't have the house that you want yet, but you're incredibly happy because of who you're surrounded with and who's in your corner, I think that's really important. So I'm glad you touched on that briefly.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that, man. I think that when in my 20s, it was all about, going out, having fun, what cars, how much money I had in my pocket. My 30s, I got really serious with my business and personal growth. And now I'm in my early 40s. It's all about family and experiences and just enjoying life and creating memories.
No, I like that. Creating memories. So if you had to define yourself in one word, what would that word be?
Motivational.
I like it. And one of the things we talk about quite often are different quotes and different books. And I was curious if you have a favorite quote.
Absolutely. One of my favorite quotes is by Helen Keller. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. I truly believe that we have the opportunity to create our life story each and every day. Every day we wake up is a new page leading to a new chapter in that life. And I believe it should be daring. You got to be willing to get out there, get out on a limb, test yourself, get uncomfortable, and then embrace that uncomfortable feeling so that you can keep moving. Because I think that one of the things that people can become is complacent in their business, complacent in their spirituality, complacent in their relationships, complacent in their careers. And they wake up frustrated, angry, and say, I don't know where I am. What is it all about? Well, you didn't create it. And that's where you have to create a daring adventure and make it every day an adventure of your life.
That's a great quote, and I love how you tied that into just kind of how you do what you do every day, and I think it's really important to not get complacent. And you touched on business, life, relationships. I think unfortunately, complacency is something that it's habitual, where you get up and you do the same thing, and you go to the same job, and you have the same thing for lunch or for dinners. And not that you want to go out every single day and just completely turn your life upside down, but I think to get better, you have to become uncomfortable. And it reminds me of a great quote by Shannon Sharp is, I tell people all the time that you have to become comfortable being uncomfortable. And it sounds like a really simple quote, and it is a simple quote when you read it, but it's not easy to do, in the sense of it's not easy to continually take yourself out of your comfort zone, because that's where everybody's comfortable. But it's, outside of your comfort zone where all the greatness happens.
Absolutely, man. I love that quote. I think that I think some of the simplest quotes, and I know you're a personal growth guy, so Jim Rohn. A lot of people talk, he used to say, if you want to change your life, change. You're not a tree. And I love that, because a lot of people think, I can't do it. I'm too old. I don't have the time. I don't have the resources, or whatever it is. And I'm here to say you can do whatever. It doesn't matter if you're 50, 60, 70. You want to change your career? Change. You don't like the way you look? Change. You don't like the way you feel? Change it. But you have to first be the catalyst for that change and make a decision. Once you make that decision, then action and the laws of, whatever you believe in will come to you, and it'll give you the resources and the ability to do so. No,
I couldn't agree more. And I loved how you talked about Jim Rohn. And Jim is one of those gentlemen that he had amazing quotes that he was known for, but not to demean him in any way, shape, or form, because he's an amazing person. But some of his best quotes I found were the simplest ones, where, just like you represented a couple minutes ago, is you're not a tree, change. And I think one of the things that we've talked about recently on our show is the importance of surrounding yourself and getting the right people on your bus and in your corner. And I know for me, it's something that I had a tough time doing. And not that anybody's better than other people, but if you don't have the right people that truly have your best interests, you need to remove them and get the right people on your team.
Absolutely, man. I mean, proximity is key in order to create the life you want. If you're hanging around with people who are not living the life you want to live for yourself, you're going to be just like them. And we've heard it, you're probably the sum of the 5 people that you're hanging around the most, how they think, their income, your bank account, the career. I find that I had to eliminate a lot of people in my life when I was younger. I mean, I grew up upstate Utica, New York. I moved to Long Island when I was in 7th grade. And I went to an all-white school here on Long Island. I had to learn a lot of different things and have a lot of paradigm shifts. But right away, one of the first things I learned is that, hey, how did my friend's dad become so successful? How did he become so wealthy? How does he have, 4 cars in his garage? He was a business owner. He went out and staked his claim. I watched him. I learned. I modeled what he was doing, the way he thought, the way he see. And then I said, who is he hanging around? Oh, he's around these types of people. They're smart, articulate. They're very successful. How do I do what he does? And I started to say, hey, I got a mastermind. I have to go to seminars. I have to meet people like you, Chris. I have to connect with people. And then I had to be a giver also, because a lot of times people are such extractors. They always are taking. I had to look for opportunities to give people the resources they need, to make the contacts and connections. And then my proximity and my inner circle grew. And now I feel like it's really where I want it to be. But I'm always looking to up level. How do I get to the next level with someone who is doing more? I never want to be the smartest person in the room.
No, I like that. And if you wouldn't mind just touching a little bit on what that level up concept means for you.
Absolutely. So the level up concept means to me is that basically when I'm in the room with someone, I want to be able to share, but I also want to be able to ask them questions and learn from them. And they're like, sometimes you go into a room and like you're dominant because we're speakers and things like that. So of course we're going to be speaking, but I want to listen. And I want to be like, okay, what can I learn from Chris? What can I learn from Dan? What can I learn from this person? And then, okay, now that I've learned that, I want to give them respect and say, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to take that information and I'm going to utilize it in my life. And then I like to give it back to them so that I can show them that, hey, they've impacted my life.
No, I appreciate that. And I'm glad you referenced that, because it's something that we talk about on our show, not that often, but I think it's important, is you have to be willing to not only receive, but you have to also be willing to give. And I think so many times people find themselves in a one-way street where, whether it's business, personal, relationship, you're giving one way and it doesn't always come back. And I think at times you'll be successful. It could be a week, could be a month. But at the end of the day, I feel that eventually karma comes back, and not that everything is about karma, but if you truly go about doing things for all the right reason, it's going to come back to you tenfold. It might not be directly to you. Maybe it'll be to a kid of yours or to a friend or family member, but I truly believe that you have to have the give and the take, and it's never going to be 50-50, but it's got to be as close to 50-50 as you can make it.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to change lanes here for a second. If you could go back and give the 20-year-old version of yourself one piece of advice, and let's also assume that the 20-year-old version of yourself would listen, what would that advice be?
Wow, that's a really great question. I would probably tell myself to go slower, to enjoy every day like it was my last. Because I think that when you're in your 20s, life is going fast and all you're thinking about is the short term. But yet sometimes we're so focused on where I'm going to college, what am I going to be doing in that next level, that you miss that. From 20 to 30 it was an amazing decade. And I can't really recall a lot because it was just so fast. And I didn't take time to really enjoy it.
You know, it's great advice. And I'm a couple years younger than you. And it's advice that I would have definitely taken and given to my 20-year-old self. And I think it's part of life, too. And it doesn't always mean in your 30s or 40s or 50s. It could be in your 20s or even younger. It's just the importance of enjoying life. And I really appreciate you sharing that with us. So here's a different question for you. If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
If I could have dinner with anyone, I probably would say Napoleon Hill. And it's one of my favorite books, Think and Grow Rich. But I would love to really have been able to ask him some of the difficult questions that he had kind of elaborated in the book, where he was able to pull some of those stories from. And then what advice would he give someone in 2018 about living life and attracting everything they want? And would his book really have the same impact today that it had when he first wrote it?
You know, that's amazing that you said that. It's Think and Grow Rich has been the number one recommended book on our show. And I just think it's an amazing book. And I've joked in the past with a couple of friends I'd love to go back and write Think and Grow Rich for 2018 or 2019, because I think there's so many amazing people that literally took a lot of Napoleon Hill's writings and some of the amazing people he interviewed, and they've used it to change their lives. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely. I think that it needs to be written. I mean, I know that Tony Robbins did something similar with his financial book, but it was so thick that I don't think anyone finished it.
I know a lot of people fell asleep a couple times during it and still woke up a couple hours later and still reading.
Yes, I agree. I did not finish. I was like, wow, I love Tony, but this is definitely a whole different level of content.
So now we're going to change lanes here for a second to what we call the hot seat questions. And this is very simple, where the only thing we ask is just that you throw out the first thing that comes to mind.
Absolutely.
All right. If you had one last meal, what would you choose for your last meal?
Chicken parm.
Favorite sport?
Football.
Favorite team?
The Knicks.
All-time favorite movie?
Wow. All-time favorite movie would be probably Rocky IV.
Great movie. That's Russia, right?
Yes.
All-time favorite book?
Think and Grow Rich.
Favorite singer or band?
Favorite singer, rapper, Nas.
If you were stuck in a foxhole and you could only choose one person to have your back, who would it be and why?
Greg Califatic, my best friend, business partner. And the reason I'd have him is that he's one person that I could trust, that no matter what, back to back, we were going to go down swinging, and he would never let me down.
No, I appreciate it. And I assume that I would have been number one AA?
Yeah, definitely.
So before we let you go, I wanted to ask if you could just tell us a little bit about what you have coming up in June, and then if you wouldn't mind, just maybe any other projects or anything you're working on, because I know you get your hands in a lot of different things.
Yeah, thank you for that opportunity, Chris. June 1st and 2nd, I'm hosting what's called the 1 Hour Trainer Summit. The 1 Hour Trainer is a book that I've written, and it'll be coming out in April as well. And it's all about creating your ideal lifestyle business. Whether you're a coach, a personal trainer, a fitness professional, or a service provider who wants to understand three simple things. One is, how do you create and unleash your $1 million message with your own personal story? Two is, how do you uncover your authentic authority? Now, this is all about how do you figure out what makes you unique, why you stand out in a noisy market. And the third thing is, how do you really just basically say, here's my message. This is the type of business I want. This is going to create the lifestyle that I want. It's going to facilitate all the things: impact, income, and independence for my family. So over 2 days, what I'm going to do is peel back the curtain June 1st and 2nd in New York. And I'm going to share with them exactly how I created multiple personal training studios that run for themselves right now. I literally, in 2016, I trained 30 minutes a day for the entire year. And I did that because I wanted to make sure that I kept my hands in the grind and I didn't forget about how to coach people, how to connect with people, how to build rapport. So that was my entire story. Now I train even less. But I love the fact that a lot of personal trainers and service providers, they get stuck in the day-to-day grind, the 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. trap. And they need to understand that there's certain systems and processes, if they want to design and create a business, that they need to install in their lives. And this is what the 1 Hour Trainer philosophy is all about. I boiled it all down to 3 basic things. And over the weekend, I'll be sharing with them that. And I'm bringing in some of the top speakers to help me and kind of elicit and share with them exactly some of the things that I'm not an expert in. Because that's one of the things you have to know, that you can't be a jack of all trades and a master of none. You really have to dial it into what you do better than anyone else so that you can be a specialist rather than a generalist. And that's the main project that I'm working on. I'm excited about it. I think that it's going to be huge. Anywhere from 60 to 100 people are going to come out. We're going to have a great weekend. And I'm just going to share from the heart exactly what I've done and how they can do it as well. And I believe anyone can create the business they love if they kind of find out exactly what their message is, how they're going to share it, and most importantly, how they're going to deliver world-class service.
No, it's awesome. If you wouldn't mind, for any of our listeners that are interested in finding out about that or the best way to connect and follow you, what would be the best way for them to do so?
Thank you. The best way to connect with me is facebook.com/Coach Rahz. That's CoachRahz, Coach Rahz. And then for the 1 Hour Trainer Summit, you can go to onehourtrainersummit.com, and you see all the description of exactly where the hotel is, what the price for it is. It's a nominal price, and all the value you're going to get if you are able to attend that event. I truly think it's going to be a game changer for the individuals who step up, invest in themselves, and make the opportunity happen.
No, I definitely would recommend that. And then last question, I wanted to ask if you have any parting words you'd like to leave with our listeners.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that my most important thing I want people to understand is that you get to write your story. Where you start in life, whatever challenges, obstacles, they don't have to dictate your future. If you have a positive mental attitude, if you're willing to get yourself around people who are willing to help you get to where you want to go, if you get a vision and you get on fire with that vision, anything can happen. Listen, I'm a guy who grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment. I had no father. My mother was young, on drugs, and I'm able to take that circumstances and really create the life I want. I'm married now. I have a great home. I have a great life. I have great friends, and I have the opportunity to come on and share on a podcast like this. Someone like Chris blessed me that opportunity. It wouldn't have happened if I didn't believe it could.
Wow, that's some great stuff, and I truly appreciate your candor. And I just wanted to thank you for not only sharing what you did today, but I also appreciate your candor, because I must tell you, the best part about the podcast is just getting an opportunity to connect with different people from all walks of life. And I don't think anybody can say I had it worse or this person has it worse. But what I think the best part that I can mention to our listeners and to end with is the importance of just going after it and making it happen. And Rahz, I got to tell you, my man, it's been an honor, and I truly appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate it. Hopefully your listeners got something, and I want to thank you again for having me and letting me share that message.
Thank you for listening to episode number 96. Rahz took a tough upbringing, and he didn't allow it to stop him. A physical disability, not having a father, and dealing with a single mother addicted to drugs, he had every right to make excuses, but he didn't and hasn't. His definition of success was spot on. Rahz defines success as doing what he wants, when he wants, with who he wants, and for as long as he wants. I personally couldn't agree more with that definition. With the book coming out in April and his first live event in June, Rahz definitely gets after it. In his parting words, he stated something that has been a common theme throughout the last few episodes: the importance of getting around good people that support you. Rahz spoke about how we all get to write our own story. So if you are not where you want to be in life, or with the right person, don't worry or stress about it. Instead, do something about it. Take action and rewrite your story. Get the right people in your corner and spend your time with the right people as well. I challenge you today to get outside your comfort zone as you go for your greatness. In closing, I will share a quote with you. Be aware of people who are in your circle, but not in your corner. And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.